Good evening. From East Asia's political upheaval to internal battles shaping America's Democratic Party, today's episode explores two major flashpoints in global and domestic politics. In South Korea, President Yoon Suk Yeol has been removed from office after a dramatic impeachment ruling. His brief declaration of martial law last December shook the nation and its democratic institutions. Meanwhile, in the United States, the Democratic Party is in open conflict after Kamala Harris' defeat. Moderates and progressives are clashing over the party's future. Let's get in focus. South Korea is in political turmoil after its constitutional court unanimously upheld the impeachment of President Yoon Suk Yeol. His abrupt martial law declaration in December and the deployment of troops to the National Assembly was ruled a gross abuse of power and a violation of democratic principles. Yoon, facing trial on insurrection charges, is the first president in South Korean history to be removed, arrested, and indicted while in office. His ousting has sparked protests, celebrations, and a renewed debate over civil-military boundaries in South Korea's democracy. Axios reports that Yoon's removal marks a constitutional milestone and a historic precedent in democratic accountability. His declaration of martial law, intended to suppress what he called pro-North Korean elements, was viewed by legal experts as a self-coup. The court cited the unconstitutional use of military force against elected institutions as the primary reason for his removal. With the snap presidential election now required within 60 days, the country faces a volatile political landscape, and the leadership vacuum may rattle South Korea's alliances, including with Washington. To break this down further, we are joined by Dr. Tamara Biro, a specialist in Asian studies. Good evening to you, Dr. Biro, and welcome to In Focus. Let me start here by asking you, President Yoon's martial law declaration was widely condemned. How does this episode compare to South Korea's past experiences with military rule?
Good evening to you, greetings to you and to the viewers. Korea declared democracy after the end of the military regimes in the 1980s. President Yoon wanted to eliminate the opposition, which prevented him from approving some resolutions. The opposing party was controlling and there was a greater majority in the parliament, and every time President Yoon wanted to pass a decision, the opposition stood there opposing and rejecting the resolution. The opposition also wanted to pass laws and remove the president, always used the veto. There was a political crisis between both parties, and for him to eliminate the opposition, he announced martial laws. This declaration caused a major crisis, as these laws only continued for a few hours, and then the parliament cancelled the martial law declaration, according to statements by military officials that the removed leader demanded that the members would be arrested and all political opposers to be arrested. So the military rule crisis in South Korea is still going. We are still seeing the implications till now, and there is a crisis of confidence between the opposing party and the ruling party. The opposing party and its head had an essential role that we can in the Constitutional Court decision to remove the president of South Korea. If we considered past experiences, there are two cases. The first, in the 2004, as the Constitutional Court considered the removal of the Korean leader, but it ended with reinstating the president again. And then in 2017, the Constitutional Court decided to remove the president back then, and she was accused of corruption and was sentenced to prisons, and then she was released in 2021. There are way too many cases for senior officials who were prosecuted for corruption in South Korea. The confidence crisis is between the liberals and the conservatives is still going, and we can also see tensions and disagreements between the ruling and the opposing parties, as the presidential elections will take place in 2 months. As per the constitution, with the removal of the president, then the elections has to take place in a 2 month period. The elections is set for the 3rd of June, and most probably, as per estimates, the opposing party leader is going to win, as he was exonerated of the accusations of tampering with the 2022 elections, and now he is entitled to run for a new term in the next elections in 2 months. And for the ruling party, it is not clear yet who's going to run for the elections, but most probably, and according to estimates, the leader of the opposing party is most probably going to win in the next elections.
Now, what are the broader implications of this ruling for South Korea's democratic institutions and civil-military relations?
For the Constitutional Court decision, the majority sees it as a just decision, as President Yul announced martial laws in an unprecedented manner and unconstitutional manner. He wanted to eliminate the opposition, and therefore the Constitutional Court here achieved justice and democracy in a democratic country. Also, during the past few weeks, the state minister was exonerated, who took office instead of Yul after his removal. He assumed office temporarily. He's now acting president and the prime minister. According to the and the Constitutional Court a week ago exonerated him, and he was back to assume his office. Also, the Criminal Court released Yoon Suk-yeol a few weeks ago, because I want also to indicate a very important point here. Yoon Suk-yeol situation did not end with his removal. The Constitutional Court issued this decision to remove the president, but there is another issue to be considered in the criminal court to prosecute the president for aiding and abetting a rebellion. So the prosecution is still going, and if the court finds him guilty of this accusation and for prompting this rebellion, he might be sentenced to death or for a life sentence. South Korea has not witnessed a death sentence since 1997, indicating, looking back on the past presidents, on the former presidents' prosecutions. In 2017, the president was convicted of corruption charges, and she was released in 2021 for illness reasons. The ruling party now was satisfied with the constitutional court decision. There were no tensions, and the Yoon Suk-yeol supporters did not take into the street or the party. There was a disagreement between the ruling party and the president because of the declaration of martial laws, even that the head of the party resigned from his position after a disagreement with the President Yul after the martial laws were announced. So there weren't any consensus between Yoon Suk-yeol and his own party, and therefore the party so the removal of Yoon Suk-yeol was the best solution to avoid any political tensions within South Korea, especially in the current phase. Also, if the court has approved the reinstatement of Yoon Suk-yeol and did not remove him, this would have allowed the future presidents to announce martial laws. Even if that was not necessary, this would set a precedent for next and future Korean presidents to martial laws as they see fit without necessity. There are also a sensitive matter regarding the tariffs imposed by President Trump yesterday on different states, especially South Korea. Trump imposed the tariffs on South Korea with 25%, and the Korean economy will suffer from such decisions, especially the automotive industry. And consequently, an election must be convened in the 2-month period set by the election authority to elect a new president, and there are a lot of internal files waiting for this president regarding the revival of the Korean economy and dissolving the political tensions and establishing good relations with the ruling party, the former ruling parties, and also negotiating with Donald Trump to reduce the tariffs, which will of course have a negative impact on the Korean economy, which is already suffering due to the political crisis since the removal of the president.
Yes, that was Ms. Dr. Tamara Biro. Thank you so much for your perspective on this critical moment for South Korean democracy. Now, while South Korea grapples with a leadership crisis, the U.S. Democratic Party is in the throes of internal upheaval. After a stunning defeat in the 2024 election, Democrats are locked in a battle between moderates and progressives, each accusing the other of being out of touch. What's at stake? Possibility, the future of the party itself? We'll see.
Donald Trump is his name. He's there to stay.
As unlikely, impossible is now reality.
We will make America powerful. We will win, win, win. who are in Paris. We will very quickly make America great again.
The Democratic Party is fractured after Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump. Tensions between moderates and progressives have erupted into open rebellion. Iconic figures like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are facing primary threats. Approval ratings are at record lows. The question isn't just how Democrats lost, but whether they know how to fight back. The Financial Times calls it a nadir for the party, with progressive like Chakrabarti launching a primary challenge against Nancy Pelosi, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez accusing party leaders of betrayal. Democrats are no longer battling Republicans, they are battling themselves. From calls to double down on populism to pleas for moderation and pragmatism, the party is adrift without a unifying message or clear direction, and with polling showing deep disillusionment, the stakes couldn't be higher heading into 2026. Now, joining us now is Mr. Peter Roth, contributing editor at Newsweek. Mr. Peter, good evening to you and welcome to In Focus. Let me here start by asking you, is the Democratic Party facing a true existential crisis, or is this just a rough post-election recalibration? Hello? Hello, Mr. Peter, do you hear me? Hello? Mr. Peter? Hello, Mr. Peter? Right, we'll go into a short break and we'll come in just a minute. Well, welcome back, and we apologize for the technical problem. Now we get back to you, Mr. Peter Roth. Mr. Peter Roth, contributing editor of Newsweek. Mr. Peter, good evening to you again, and welcome to In Focus. Let me start by asking you, is the Democratic Party facing a true existential crisis, or is this just a rough post-election recalibration?
Well, the short answer to that is yes. After every disappointing election, the American political parties have to recalibrate and reorient. That's been true since as long as there have been American political parties. And sometimes, as in the case of the Whigs, the party goes away. It disappeared in the 1850s and was replaced as the opposition to the Jeffersonian Democrats, as they were then known, by what is now known as the Republican Party. But the Democrats are also facing an existential crisis. It is funny to me, who has been an observer and commentator on American politics since the 1980s, that people like Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer, the current Senate leader, are viewed as moderates. When I first started out, they were the left wing of the Democratic Party. They have now been passed ideologically by people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and Hakeem Jeffries and Tammy Duckworth, the senator from Illinois, and others who now take a hard position on many issues. They are absolutely for government intervention in the marketplace. They are absolutely 100% behind the ability of a woman to terminate her pregnancy at any time for any reason, and to have that procedure paid for by the government. and they support the idea that biological men can call themselves women and compete against biological women in women's sports in college, and all kind of things that are beyond the mainstream of American political and social thinking, but define who they are as Democrats.
Let me ask you, with figures like Chakrabarti and challenging Pelosi, and Ocasio-Cortez threatening Mr. Schumer, what does this say about the state of leadership within the party?
It says that the leadership is weak, and people who are drawing crowds at rallies, the people who are drawing small dollar donations, the people who are getting on television, are winning the battle for the hearts and minds of the people who still want to call themselves Democrats.
Now, progressives argue that the party isn't fighting Trump hard enough. Are they right, or is the call for unity more important?
I think they're right that the party's not fighting Trump hard enough because they're not fighting anything hard enough. The war on Trump is being carried out largely by the American media, which is in ideological lockstep with people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. The media decisions that are made are not made by people like me. They're made by people who work at places like the New York Times, CNN, and MSNBC. And they try to present the far-left Democratic positions as the normal mainstream positions, and they try to present the normal, typical Democratic positions as conservative, and conservative positions as being fascist, when it's really they that are the ones that are far from center.
Polls here show that Democrats at their lowest approval in decades. What's driving this drop, and how much of it is due to internal or this internal division?
That's a good question. I think they feed off each other. I think the debate about what the party is, how they're going to win elections, what they stand for, is important for the Democrats to have. They've lost now 2 national elections to somebody who was supposed to be unelectable, and they have to be sitting around going, "What are we doing wrong?" Remember that here in America, every public policy issue is covered in a way that's favorable to Democrats, whether it's the economic news, health care, regular business reporting. It's their agenda, that there is a health care crisis, and the solution to the health care crisis is what the Democrats propose, not what the Republicans propose. The Republicans want to destroy health care. The Republicans want to destroy Medicaid. The Republicans want to destroy Medicare, which is health care for the elderly. That's not Democratic Party spin. That's mainstream U.S. reporting.
Mr. Peter Roth, we thank you.
With all of that, the Democrats are falling apart.
Remains to be seen, right, Mr. Peter Roth. We thank you again for your insights and for your valuable time as Democrats search for identity in a polarized nation. The road to 2026 looks increasingly uncertain. Whether the reset or rupture could determine the future for a generation. From the democratic fall of a South Korean president to a U.S. political party tearing itself apart, today's episode shows how quickly political fortunes can shift and how fragile democratic institutions can be under pressure. We'll keep this global turning points in focus. Until next time, this is Mona Musalhi. Many thanks for watching.